In Luke 16, Jesus tells a parable about a man named Lazarus and a man referred to as the rich man. We sometimes call him Dives, the Latin word for a rich man. The rich man is described this way. The text says that he dressed in purple, sign of at least rank, if not royalty. He ate sumptuously every day. He lived well, dressed well, ate well, lived well. Right outside his door lay a poor beggar named Lazarus. So poor that the text says he would gladly have eaten the crumbs that fell from the rich man's table. He would have eaten the crumbs if the rich man had only offered him just the crumbs. His body was covered in sores. Dogs from the street would come by and lick the open wounds on his body. He was poor. He was destitute. He was homeless. He was hungry. He had nowhere to go. Sitting right outside the door of a rich man who dressed in purple and ate sumptuously every day. The text then moves on in Luke 16 to say that the rich man went to hell and Lazarus went to heaven. The question is why? Why did the rich man go to hell? Not because he was rich, but because of what he did or did not do with his riches. Not because of how he treated himself or anybody inside of his own house, but because of how he treated the poor man who was sitting just outside his door. Every day, the rich man passed Lazarus. Every day, he stepped over him on his way to become richer. Every day, he came home from his buying and selling to eat his full meal, climbing over Lazarus on his way home. He went to hell because he lived side by side with poverty and never lifted a finger to do anything about it. He went to hell not because he was rich, but because he lacked compassion. Not because of the money he had, but the caring he did not possess. If we're not careful, you and I, we can end up in hell for the same reason. Because we will live side by side with people who are poor and sick and hungry and homeless and destitute, and we can be so busy coming and going and dressing and feeding and earning and striving and getting ahead for ourselves, we never stop long enough to see that Lazarus is still here. Still just outside the door, still just around the corner, still right across the street. And every time you and I act as if we are not more like the rich man than we are like Lazarus, we deceive ourselves. Most of us are not Lazarus. Most of us are more like the rich man. And our challenge is not to begin pointing fingers at somebody else and telling them what they should do about poverty. Most of us need to be sure we have at least responded to the Lazaruses who are right outside our own door. I have a church that's on 89th and Cedar. Most of the folks who come there are like the rich man. They come in well dressed. They come in well fed. They ride in fine cars. They wear the best clothes. They've got on the finest jewelry. They come into town and they ride right past Lazarus. And my job as a pastor is to remind us as a congregation that we cannot be that close to the problem and not find ways to reach out and touch those who are themselves the victims